Nothing stays buried forever, not even the stars of the 1991 cult classic. As we look back at the Addams Family cast, we find ourselves drowning in a sea of nostalgia and raw emotion. Time has carved new paths for these actors, and some stories end in beauty, while others end in profound sadness. Witness the unbelievable metamorphosis of Gomez Morticia and the rest. You are not prepared for how much has changed. Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams. Born on February 12, 1980, the Santa Monica, California native began her career in commercials before landing the part that would define her childhood. At the age of 10, Ricci's portrayal of the morbid deadpan daughter became a cultural phenomenon, stealing scenes from seasoned veterans with her terrifyingly calm delivery and unblinking stare. Her performance not only established her as a goth icon, but also redefined the character from a sweet-natured oddball into a brilliant sociopathic fan favorite, setting a high bar for child actors in dark comedies. Despite the homicidal stoicism she projected on screen, the young Christina Ricci was a precocious and highly expressive child who found the requirement to remain stone-faced physically difficult. As she matured, she faced the brutal reality of the child star curse, struggling to be taken seriously as an adult actress while battling severe body image issues and anorexia in her late teens, a byproduct of growing up under the media's microscope. Professionally, she often had to fight against being eternally typecast as the creepy girl, working tirelessly in independent films to showcase her range. Her personal life also involved significant hardship, including a difficult divorce involving domestic abuse, a trauma she later publicly addressed to help other survivors. Christina Ricci persevered to build a prolific career in both film and television, eventually embracing her dark roots to massive critical success. She made a triumphant return to the franchise that made her famous by playing a villain in the Netflix series Wednesday, and earned Emmy nominations for her role as Misty Quigley in the hit survival drama Yellow Jackets. As of 2026, at the age of 46, she is an active and celebrated figure in Hollywood, living with her second husband, Mark Hampton, and her two children, having successfully navigated the perilous journey from child stardom to an enduring and respected legacy. Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester Addams. Born on October 22, 1938, the Stamford, Connecticut native was already a celebrated character actor before donning the heavy makeup and prosthetic jowls for the Barry Sonnenfeld film. At the age of 52, Lloyd's portrayal of the electric-generating light-bulb-eating eccentric became an instant cinematic classic, successfully bridging the gap between the original Charles Addams cartoons and a modern audience. He fully committed to the part, shaving his head to achieve the look, and his ability to emote warmth through the grotesque makeup helped make the film a massive commercial success, solidifying Fester as one of his most recognizable roles alongside Doc Brown. Despite the character's manic energy and grotesque comedic habits, Christopher Lloyd is known in reality as a deeply introverted and quiet man, a stark contrast to the loud and animated figures he plays on screen. This reserve often made the promotional circuits and public speaking engagements difficult for him, as he preferred to let his work speak for itself. Furthermore, Lloyd faced the significant professional struggle of severe typecasting. His distinct features and history of playing high-energy eccentrics often precluded him from being considered for dramatic, understated, or leading romantic roles. While he worked consistently, he frequently had to navigate an industry that viewed him exclusively through the lens of the mad scientist or the oddball uncle, a categorization that limited his range of opportunities for decades. Christopher Lloyd has remained an active and beloved figure in Hollywood well into his twilight years, continuing to appear in films, television shows, and conventions, where he is revered by pop culture fans. He has embraced his legacy, appearing in recent years in high-profile projects like The Mandalorian and the action film Nobody, while famously refusing to retire. As of 2026, at the age of 88, he is still working in the industry, lending his distinctive voice and presence to new projects and continuing to delight generations of fans who grew up watching his iconic performances. Anjelica Huston as Morticia Addams, born on July 8, 1951, in Santa Monica, California, the daughter of legendary director John Huston. Anjelica was already an Academy Award winner before she stepped into the Gothic mansion. At the age of 39, she took on the role of Morticia Addams in the 1991 live-action adaptation, delivering a performance that redefined the character for a new generation. Her portrayal was a masterclass in slinky, deadpan elegance. She transformed the cartoon matriarch into a sultry, unflappable icon of macabre glamour. The role earned her a Golden Globe nomination and cemented her image in pop culture as the definitive version of the dark romantic heroine. Despite Morticia's cool composure and perfect romance on screen, Anjelica Huston was enduring significant personal turmoil during this period. Just prior to filming, her 17-year relationship with Jack Nicholson had ended in a heartbreaking and public manner. While playing a character defined by an unshakable bond with her husband, Huston was privately navigating the grief of a shattered long-term partnership. Professionally, the role was a physical ordeal. The transformation required a metal corset so tight she could not sit down or breathe properly, along with eye lift tabs glued to her temples that caused severe daily headaches. She later described the costume as a form of torture, noting that the moment filming wrapped, she felt the urge to burn the restrictive garments that had caused her so much pain. Anjelica Huston remains a revered figure in Hollywood, having transitioned into a distinguished career as a character actress, director, and author. She was widowed in 2008, following the death of her husband, sculptor Robert Graham, and later sold their famous Venice fortress to live more quietly. As of 2026, at the age of 74, she is still active in the industry, residing on her ranch in the California foothills. In recent years, she has lent her distinctive voice to animated projects and appeared in the John Wick action franchise, maintaining her status as Grand Dame of Cinema, who commands respect in every role she inhabits. Raul Julia as Gomez Addams. Born on March 9, 1940 in San Juan, Puerto Rico, the classically trained actor brought a theatrical and passionate energy to the big-screen adaptation of the classic cartoon. At the age of 50, Raul Julia's portrayal of the eccentric and deeply romantic patriarch became a definitive cinematic performance, infusing the character with a zest for life and an undying devotion to his wife, Morticia. His charismatic interpretation revitalized the franchise, turning Gomez Addams into a beloved cultural icon known for his swordplay, intense gaze, and suave demeanor that captivated audiences worldwide. While Gomez was a man of leisure and macabre humor, Raul Julia was a deeply committed humanitarian and a serious stage actor dedicated to ending world hunger. The contrast lay in the levity of his most famous role versus the gravity of his real-world mission with the Hunger Project. Although celebrated for his incredible range, his career was not without challenges. He spent years fighting against the limitations of being typecast as the Latin lover or a villain in Hollywood, constantly striving to prove he could master Shakespearean roles and complex dramas. Despite his immense talent, he often faced the pressure of representing Puerto Rican actors in an industry that offered few substantive roles for Latinos at the time. Raul Julia continued to deliver powerful performances until the very end, famously taking on the role of M. Bison in the video game adaptation Street Fighter, primarily because his children were fans of the franchise. Tragically, his life was cut short, just as he was experiencing a career renaissance. Raul Julia passed away on October 24, 1994, at the age of 54, after suffering a massive stroke following complications from stomach cancer, a condition he had kept largely private. His death prompted a state funeral in Puerto Rico, where thousands attended to mourn the loss of a national treasure, and he was posthumously awarded a Golden Globe and an Emmy for his searing performance in The Burning Season. Carel Struycken as Lurch. Born on July 30, 1948, in The Hague, Netherlands, the towering actor brought the beloved butler to the big screen in Barry Sonnenfeld's hit adaptation. At the age of 43, Struycken's portrayal of the somber harpsichord-playing giant became a fan favorite, perfectly capturing the comic macabre of the franchise. His silent, deadpan expressions and imposing physicality honored the original Charles Addams cartoons while establishing a unique cinematic legacy that extended into the sequel, Addams Family Values, making him one of the few actors to reprise a role in the franchise's film continuity. Unlike the monosyllabic and zombie-like Lurch, Carel Struycken is a soft-spoken, highly intelligent man with a deep passion for spherical panoramic photography and gardening. His distinct physical appearance, standing 7 feet tall, is the result of acromegaly, a condition that defined his career trajectory but also presented significant challenges. While his height made him undeniable for roles like Lurch or the Giant in Twin Peaks, it inevitably led to severe typecasting. He often struggled to find work that allowed him to speak or display emotional range, frequently being relegated to roles as mute monsters, aliens, or intimidating henchmen, rather than being viewed as a versatile character actor. Carel Struycken has remained active in the industry, embracing his cult status while vigorously pursuing his artistic endeavors behind the camera. He gained renewed acclaim for reprising his role as the Giant, later revealed as the Fireman, in the 2017 revival Twin Peaks: The Return, and appeared as Grandpa Flick in the Stephen King adaptation, Dr. Sleep, in 2019. Beyond acting, he maintains a dedicated website showcasing his photography and writes a blog about his travels and creative projects. As of 2026, at the age of 77, he is residing in the Los Angeles area, living a quieter life, while occasionally attending conventions to meet the generations of fans who celebrate his contributions to fantasy and horror cinema. Dan Hedaya as Tully Alford. Born on July 24, 1940 in Brooklyn, New York, the prolific character actor stepped into the role of the conniving lawyer Tully Alford for the big-screen adaptation of the classic sitcom. At the age of 51, Hedaya's portrayal of the sweaty, desperate, and greedy antagonist served as the perfect narrative foil to the macabre but loving Addams clan. The film was a massive commercial success, revitalizing the franchise for a new generation, and his performance provided the necessary friction that highlighted the family's bizarre charm against the mundane corruption of the real world. While Tully Alford was a spineless man defined by his avarice and anxiety, Dan Hedaya is known in reality as a grounded, intelligent, and intensely professional actor with a background in literature and teaching. His distinct appearance and intensity, however, led to significant struggles with typecasting. For decades, he was almost exclusively offered roles as villains, sleazy ex-husbands, or corrupt officials. He also faced professional disappointment with The Tortellis, a spin-off of Cheers, centered on his character, Nick Tortelli. The show was canceled after only 13 episodes, a public failure that forced him to work tirelessly to pivot back into serious film roles and avoid being pigeonholed solely as a sitcom caricature. Dan Hedaya successfully broke through those early limitations to build an enviable resume, delivering memorable performances in 90s classics like Clueless, The Usual Suspects, and The First Wives Club. He remained active well into the modern era of television, taking on recurring roles in hit series like Blue Bloods and appearing in Sylvester Stallone's Tulsa King. As of 2026, at the age of 85, he is a revered elder statesman of the industry living a quieter life, while holding a legacy as one of Hollywood's most reliable and distinctive character actors. Dana Ivey as Margaret Alford. Born on August 12, 1941, in Atlanta, Georgia, the accomplished stage actress brought a memorable, neurotic energy to the big screen in Barry Sonnenfeld's hit adaptation. At the age of 50, Ivey's portrayal of Margaret Alford, the snobbish, high-strung neighbor who eventually falls in love with Cousin It, became a comedic highlight of the film. Her character served as the perfect foil to the macabre family, representing the judgmental outside world before being hilariously assimilated into the clan, a performance that solidified her status as a premier character actress in Hollywood. While Margaret Alford was defined by her shrill anxiety and eventual bizarre romance, Dana Ivey is known in reality as a dignified, classically trained titan of the Broadway stage with a calm and intellectual demeanor. This contrast often led to the professional frustration of typecasting in film. Despite her range, Hollywood frequently relegated her to roles playing uptight secretaries, stern matriarchs, or snooty neighbors, rarely utilizing the full depth of her dramatic capabilities shown in her theater career. Furthermore, as a character actor who split her time between New York and Los Angeles, she faced the constant grind of securing steady screen work in an industry that often overlooks aging female talent, requiring her to work tirelessly across mediums to maintain her visibility. Dana Ivey has largely stepped back from the limelight in recent years, enjoying a quieter life after decades of prolific work in film, television, and theater. As of 2026, at the age of 84, she is living in retirement, residing primarily in New York, where she remains a revered figure in the theater community. While she no longer takes on active screen roles, her legacy is maintained through her extensive body of work, ranging from The Color Purple to Rush Hour 3, and she occasionally participates in industry events celebrating the longevity of her career on Broadway and in cinema. Mercedes McNab as Girl Scout. Born on March 14, 1980 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Mercedes McNab began her acting career as a child. At the age of 11, she appeared in the 1991 film The Addams Family in a brief but memorable cameo. While her screen time was limited, her portrayal of the perky cookie-selling Girl Scout provided the setup for one of the film's most iconic lines regarding whether the cookies were made from real Girl Scouts. This specific performance was so effective that it convinced the filmmakers to bring her back for the sequel Addams Family Values in the larger-named role of Amanda Buckman, cementing her place in 90s pop culture history. In contrast to the bratty elitist characters, she became famous for playing such as Amanda Buckman or the vapid vampire Harmony Kendall in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Angel McNab was known off-screen as a grounded and friendly individual. However, her career was often challenged by the industry's tendency to typecast her into the mean girl or dumb blonde archetype. Following the cancellation of Angel in 2004, she faced the typical struggles of a working actor, including difficulty finding steady work outside the horror genre and the instability of pilot season. Despite posing for Playboy to shed her child star image, breaking into diverse mainstream roles proved difficult as the years went on. Mercedes McNab eventually decided to step away from acting entirely to focus on her personal life, with her last credit appearing around 2011. She married real estate developer Mark Henderson in May 2012, and the couple later welcomed a daughter. As of 2026, at the age of 45, she remains retired from the entertainment industry, living a private life focused on her family. While she has largely left Hollywood behind, she maintains a connection to her past work by occasionally attending conventions where fans continue to celebrate her contributions to the Buffyverse and the Addams Family franchise. Jimmy Workman as Pugsley Addams. Born on October 4, 1980 in Fairfax, Virginia, the young actor landed his defining role almost entirely by accident while playing on the set where his sister was auditioning. At the age of 10, Workman's portrayal of the mischievous and deviant Pugsley Addams in the 1991 blockbuster The Addams Family became an instant classic. Along with his on-screen sister Christina Ricci, he helped revitalize the macabre family for a modern audience, delivering a performance that was hilariously deadpan. The film was a massive commercial success, and his character's stripes-wearing, dynamite-wielding persona became a cultural touchstone for 90s cinema. Despite Pugsley's affinity for torture devices and mayhem, Jimmy Workman was a regular, mild-mannered child who had not initially sought a career in show business. This contrast served the character well, but the reality of the industry proved challenging once the franchise momentum slowed. Following Addams Family Values, Workman faced the common struggle of child actors trying to transition into adult roles. He found himself typecast and difficulty securing significant parts with his credits, largely limited to small appearances in films like As Good as It Gets and The Biggest Fan. The scarcity of work eventually led him to retire from acting, stepping away from the visible side of Hollywood. Jimmy Workman remained in the entertainment industry, but shifted his focus to working behind the scenes, finding a stable career in production rather than performance. He became a member of Teamsters Local 399, working in the transportation department for film and television, and was publicly involved in the highly publicized guardianship dispute regarding his younger sister actress, Ariel Winter, in the early 2000s. As of 2026, at the age of 45, he continues to live a private life in California, working as a coordinator for on-set production logistics content, with his legacy as the definitive live-action Pugsley, while avoiding the public eye. Judith Malina as Granny. Born on June 4, 1926, in Kiel, Germany, the acclaimed stage actress and director stepped into the world of mainstream Hollywood to portray the eccentric matriarch in the 1991 feature film adaptation of The Addams Family. At the age of 65, Malina's portrayal of Granny was a delightful mix of haggard witchiness and comic timing, capturing the character's love for potion brewing and the macabre. Her performance helped cement the film as a cult classic, bringing a grittier, zanier energy to the character than the previous television iteration and contributing to a massive box office success that introduced the family to a new generation. The contrast between the character and the woman was profound. While Granny was a comedic figure obsessed with the occult, Judith Malina was a fiercely serious intellectual anarchist and pacifist. She was the co-founder of the Radical Living Theater and famously took commercial roles like Granny specifically to fund her avant-garde stage productions. Her professional life was defined by a struggle against authority rather than Hollywood typecasting. She faced imprisonment for civil disobedience and tax issues, and spent years in exile in Europe. Her career was a perpetual battle against financial ruin, constantly fighting to keep her theater company alive while facing evictions and the loss of performance spaces. Judith Malina remained a relentless force in the artistic world, continuing to write, direct, and act well into her 80s, appearing in projects like The Sopranos and When in Rome. She remained dedicated to the counterculture movement and the living theater, working and living in the theater's space until her health began to fail. Malina passed away at the Lillian Booth Actors Home in Englewood, New Jersey on April 10, 2015, at the age of 88 from lung disease. Her death marked the end of an era for radical performance art, though the theater company she founded continues to operate, preserving her legacy of artistic resistance. Elizabeth Wilson as Abigail Craven. Born on April 4, 1921, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the esteemed stage and screen veteran brought a delightful menace to the 1991 film adaptation of The Addams Family. At the age of 70, Wilson's portrayal of Abigail Craven, the con artist masquerading as Dr. Greta Pinder-Schloss to steal the Addams fortune, became a highlight of the blockbuster hit. Her ability to switch between the faux warmth of a concerned doctor and the screeching tyranny of a desperate criminal contributed significantly to the film's lasting cult status, introducing her distinct talents to a new generation of fans who might have been unaware of her Tony Award-winning background. While Abigail Craven was a manipulative and greedy fraud, Elizabeth Wilson was a disciplined private and highly respected professional known for her quiet dignity and versatility. The contrast between the chaotic, cartoonish villainy of her character and her own grounded nature was stark. Throughout her extensive career, Wilson often faced the unique struggles of a character actress, frequently recognized by audiences for her sharp features and distinct voice, but often relegated to supporting roles as mothers or eccentrics rather than leading ladies. She navigated an industry where top billing was rarely afforded to those in her category, requiring her to consistently prove her worth and fight against being pigeonholed solely as an authority figure, a challenge she met with a prolific resume. Elizabeth Wilson continued to act well into her later years, maintaining a presence in both film and theater with remarkable longevity. She delivered memorable performances in high-profile films like Quiz Show and portrayed Franklin D. Roosevelt's mother in Hyde Park on Hudson in 2012, which served as one of her final screen roles. She remained dedicated to her craft, living a life focused on the arts rather than celebrity status. Elizabeth Wilson passed away at her home in New Haven, Connecticut, on May 9, 2015, at the age of 94 from natural causes. Her death marked the end of a career that spanned nearly 7 decades, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most reliable and talented character actresses in American history. Paul Benedict as Judge George Womack. Born on September 17, 1938 in Silver City, New Mexico, the distinctively featured actor joined the cast of the 1991 blockbuster film adaptation of The Addams Family. At the age of 53, Benedict's portrayal of the exasperated golf-loving neighbor provided a hilarious foil to the macabre antics of the titular clan. His performance as the irritable authority figure who finds himself at the mercy of Gomez's golf balls and the family's chaotic nature contributed to the movie's massive commercial success and helped cement its status as a cult classic for a new generation. While Judge Womack was grumpy, litigious, and easily annoyed, Paul Benedict was known by peers as a gentle, soft-spoken, and highly intellectual man with a deep passion for directing and painting. His career trajectory was heavily influenced by a physical struggle. He was diagnosed with acromegaly, a pituitary disorder that caused his jaw and hands to grow abnormally large. This condition, identified by a doctor sitting in the audience of one of his early plays, gave him his unique look, but also led to significant typecasting. He often struggled to break out of the mold of the eccentric neighbor, a trope solidified by his long-running role as Harry Bentley on The Jeffersons, which sometimes overshadowed his impressive range as a dramatic stage actor. Paul Benedict remained active in the entertainment industry throughout the 1990s and 2000s, taking on roles in films such as Waiting for Guffman and The Devil's Advocate, while dedicating much of his time to theater work on Martha's Vineyard. He never married and lived a relatively private life, focused on his artistic endeavors. Paul Benedict passed away on December 1, 2008, at the age of 70. He was found deceased at his home in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, the result of natural causes. His death was mourned by the Broadway and Hollywood communities alike, remembering him as a character actor who turned physical adversity into a memorable career. Christopher Hart as Thing. Born on February 22, 1961 in Nanaimo, British Columbia, the Canadian magician first lent his dexterity to the screen in the 1991 blockbuster The Addams Family. At the age of 30, Hart's portrayal of Thing, the helpful, scurrying, disembodied hand, became a visual effects marvel and a cultural phenomenon. Through a combination of rotoscoping and practical effects, he imbued a single limb with loyalty, sass, and impeccable comedic timing, creating a character that managed to steal scenes from seasoned actors without uttering a single word. While Thing was a small, frantic creature, Christopher Hart was a tall, composed, professional magician, a stark contrast to the cramping confinement required for the role. The physical demands were grueling. Hart spent hours hidden under floors and tables to get the shot, often battling severe numbness as blood drained from his elevated arm during long takes. His professional journey was also marked by a unique form of typecasting and anonymity. While his right hand was instantly recognizable worldwide, his face remained unknown to the general public. This hand casting continued for a decade as he struggled to find traditional acting work, but landed roles as the possessed hand in Idle Hands and a severed limb in Quicksilver Highway. Christopher Hart continued to work in the entertainment industry primarily as a top-tier magician, performing regularly at the prestigious Magic Castle in Hollywood and appearing on television specials. He eventually embraced his niche legacy, becoming a beloved figure on the convention circuit, where fans could finally put a face to the fingers. As of 2026, at the age of 65, he is alive and remains active in the magic community, continuing to perform his sleight of hand acts and appearing as a guest to celebrate the enduring legacy of the most expressive hand in cinema history. John Franklin as Cousin It. Born on June 16, 1959 in Blue Island, Illinois, the actor brought a unique physicality to the 1991 big-screen adaptation of The Addams Family and its sequel. At the age of 32, Franklin's portrayal of the gibberish-speaking sunglasses-wearing relative became a comedic highlight of the franchise, successfully transforming a character completely obscured by floor-length hair into a suave and distinct personality. Despite his face never being shown, his distinct body language helped cement Cousin It as a beloved pop culture oddity, turning a visual gag into a character that resonated with audiences as much as the main cast. The reality of playing the breezy and confident Cousin It stood in stark contrast to the grueling physical ordeal John Franklin endured on set. Born with a growth hormone deficiency, the actor had to support a wig that weighed upwards of 35 pounds, navigating the set while virtually blind and suffering from intense heat exhaustion. This physical burden was compounded by professional hurdles. Franklin often faced typecasting due to his short stature and unique look, struggling to find roles that looked past his height or his previous association with the horror villain Isaac in Children of the Corn. The anonymity of the Cousin It role, while iconic, ironically, made it difficult for him to leverage the film's massive success into more visible acting work, leading to a period of career uncertainty. John Franklin eventually made the difficult decision to step away from the instability of Hollywood, pivoting to a career in education, where he taught English and screenwriting at a high school in California for over a decade. He eventually retired from teaching to return to his creative roots in writing and acting. As of 2026, at the age of 66, he remains a celebrated figure on the horror and pop culture convention circuit, frequently meeting fans who grew up with his performances. He currently resides in the Los Angeles area, balancing his retirement with writing projects and embracing the enduring legacy of his unique contributions to cinema. From the blossoming careers of the child stars to the legendary status of the icons we have lost, the cast of 1991 remains a cornerstone of cinematic history. Their evolution reflects our own, a mirror of time moving steadily forward, while the film stays frozen in its dark perfection. Which of these stars do you miss seeing on the big screen the most? Tell us your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to keep these cinematic memories alive with us.